everybody. I'm Marcos.
And I'm Kirsten.
And this is the Minnesota Real Estate Investing Podcast.
Join us every week as we discuss real estate investing in the land of 10,000 lakes.
There was this administration that was there for like 8-10 years, something like that. So about a decade doing that. That was what the country needed at the time to get out of the hyperinflation we had in the 80s. After the dictatorship, everything went to shit. And then in 2001, they removed the convertibility, and that's when we started having inflation. So in like overnight, in 2001, we lost like about 20% of our purchase power and salary.
Wow, overnight.
Overnight, yeah. And
when it usually takes, 2 years for that to happen.
Yeah, well, even right now,
in a healthy economy.
Exactly. Even right now here, we lost probably about that, but in the last 2 years.
Okay, yeah.
Like since
in the United States, yeah.
In the United States, yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, about economics. It's like so fine-tuned with, and when people are like, well, inflation is not a problem. No, inflation is just the worst thing that you can have in a country. And right now in Argentina, it's even worse. Like Argentina is getting to Venezuela levels right now.
Damn, really?
Yeah. It's getting there. It's not there yet. So the government says that the official exchange is more like 100 to 1. And the official exchange you see everywhere is like 96, like even if you look it up in Google. But then what I do to find out what's the real exchange, because that's the official, that's government, right? Yeah. Government usually lies to people. And that's how they make money, because they sell you dollars at 100 to 1, so you're actually, or they do an exchange that it's not convenient. So if you go and pay things with credit card in Argentina, you have the official exchange. So your dollars buy less than if you send it through Western Union. And that's what I double check every time to know the actual value. Okay. So when the government is saying 100 to 1, Western Union is saying about 300 to 1.
Yeah.
So for people there, it's expensive because, the average income there, the minimum wage actually is like $170 a month.
Yeah, $25 in Mexico is like 1,000 pesos.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I think it's like 20 to 1 or something like that, right?
20 to 1.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Would that be 1,000 pesos?
I don't know.
It would be like 400 pesos.
Yeah.
Something
Last time I went to Playa del Carmen. I went there with Kirsten and my mom and my sister and Rumi. We just had Rumi at the time, and the exchange was 20 to 1. And I mean,
right now it's 19, bro. We going good, man. We good.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. It's economics. I mean, in the end, it's money. In the end, it's money, and in the end, it's more about what you do with it and the mentality that you have. Because I have people in Argentina that are always complaining about, I have no money, and this economy, it doesn't help. There's no jobs anywhere. And I have people that own businesses down there.
Yeah.
Like, it's just...
And they're making money.
And they're making money. I mean, they're not rich, because I'm not from a rich part of town either. Okay. But they're successful in what they're doing. Yeah. And that's the thing. And you translate it to here, it's the same thing. How many people do you hear every day? Oh, United States is so messed up.
Yeah. Oh, I'm broke. Oh, I'm this.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so hard to find money.
You and I coming from other countries, we're like, you want to see injustice.
Yeah.
You want to see inequality.
Exactly.
Dude. And it's not about equality or something like that. It's about the opportunity.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because that's what you saw. Like, you came here to visit, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna give it a chance, right?
Yeah, and it's not surprised that life is unfair in general, right? Wherever you are.
Yeah. Where is it?
The thing about here, like you said, is the opportunity, and you have the choice and the privilege to have abundancy.
Exactly.
Abundancy.
Welcome back, guys. Thank you for joining me today, Danielle. It is a surprise. Today it's just me and him. Kirsten's not here. She's working with some interior design works and she had to go and supervise and take care of. So Danielle accepted. We were talking about doing a podcast, you and I together, for a while. So We took advantage of the timing today. Tomorrow is Thanksgiving Day, so I wanted to get it done as soon as possible. We're recording on Wednesday. This is going to go live on Friday. And we're here at Lifetime Work.
Yes.
Right. I'd like to mention where we're at right now, because we've been recording in several different parts. We recorded at your house, we recorded at a library, we recorded in our house, we recorded at BSM last week with Amanda and Danielle. Today we're at where you work. Lifetime Fitness has offices that can, well, they should pay me for this. I'm kind of...
You can get paid for referring people.
Yeah, there you go. Well, remember, code Gordo Marcos on the bottom. No.
Well, thank you for having me, man. I appreciate that. We have a different dynamic today, you and me, bro. We just gotta be let the men talk, man.
Yeah.
Last time there were women talking about hair and stuff, bro. We're not gonna talk about hair and makeup
shoes
and
shoes.
Yeah, dude, what the fuck? Yeah, we're not gonna talk about shoes and hair.
Well, that's part of what they care about. We don't spend money on shoes and that stuff. I mean, we do, but
But that's not what we're talking about today.
No. We're gonna talk about real estate. We're talking about real estate investing. We're talking about financing. We don't have a certain structure today. We're just gonna have a conversation, maybe give you some how do you call them, golden nuggets?
Gold nuggets, yeah.
To give you how you can get creative financing, seller financing, or how you can kind of start some things not when you have no money. Like I always think that you do need some money, but it's not as hard as you think. So we're just gonna go with all that stuff.
Yeah, let's do it.
So it was a few weeks ago that we were talking about how you bought your house currently, and you put zero money down. You had to get really creative with that. And you use a few things like hard money, private money, to buy the house, to rehab it, and then what you did was refinance. I mean, of course, you need credit score, you need a company, an LLC that's going to help you out with that. You need to be able to get a loan, basically. I mean, that's the only thing that would stop you from investing in real estate. But there are other options too. Like it's not only like, because people are like, well, I don't have someone that can borrow money to me. I don't have the connections that you have to get hard money and be able to do all that, because you did it also in record time. How long did it take you to do all that process?
Well, the whole process took, since I first did connection with the realtor, it was pretty standard. I would say 6 months, because you have first contact with the lead and with the seller, and then up until now, maybe it's been 6 months.
Yeah.
Since I did that first contact, but then there's a lot of what is it called, like empty time, where you're not really doing nothing. You're just waiting for the deal to just close. Like the money's there, everybody's willing to sell. You're just waiting for the title company and to close. But it's just waiting time, right? Yeah.
So you have a lot of downtime, and it, sometimes it's like a week. Sometimes it could be a few weeks. Yeah.
In this case, the seller wanted to sell like in 90 days. It's okay, I can wait, right? And it was actually better for me to wait, because the market was shifting, so I could still back out, right? But then and then the seller was like, no, I can close in 30 days. Oh, perfect. Okay, let's close in 30 days. Fine.
Because that's what you needed at the time too. Like timing is really important in the market when you're doing that kind of transaction where you're getting creative in how to buy a house, especially if you're using other people's money, because the worst case scenario is that suddenly you don't have money to pay your people back.
Yeah.
And
that's the worst.
That would be, because you're liable for all that stuff.
In fact, they do teach us that even if the deal goes bad and you lose money, the best thing that you have to accomplish, or the very first thing that you need to worry about, is paying your liabilities.
Always.
Paying your private lenders. Otherwise, man, they're not gonna lend to you again. You lose the credibility. I mean, moral goes down. You're known as a guy who's not closing deals and losing money. You don't want to be that guy. You don't want to be that guy.
No, definitely not. So it's very important to pay your people always. Like even if you make the money, even if you have to come out of pocket, always pay off everyone. Because if they're happy, they're gonna lend you money again, and you can repeat that. And next time, now you're gonna make money. And it's all about that reputation. Because I mean, it's something that we've expressed in every single podcast since we started. Like this is the 7th episode we're doing right now, and you hear this a lot. You're in variations of phrases. Your network is your net worth. But it's basically who you know is gonna determine how successful you are. And you know, if you have people that can borrow money to you and that trust you enough because they know that you're knowledgeable and you know, skillful enough to get to closing and get their money back plus whatever the arrangement is, because they're gonna borrow you money to make money.
Yeah,
that's why they're investing in you.
And what I also learn is, you know, they say, you know, the saying goes. This is very interesting because I learned this maybe like very recently. The saying goes, it's really not what you know, it's who you know, right? Like that's the old saying. But the new saying now, after you know everybody, the internet came out and the new developments, people get to know you, right? People know who you are. So it's really it's not who you know, it's who knows you.
Right?
Who knows you?
That's so important.
And it doesn't matter if you know them or not. If they're a private lender and they know you and they know that you perform, they know that you can pay what you say you were gonna pay. That's the biggest thing.
Well, and that track record, like you can build it with private lenders, hard money lenders, and you can bring it then to, once you have that track record, let's say that, I don't know, let's say flips. Let's say you're doing flips, just to give an example, right? Because you can do it with flips, you can do it with rentals, with short-term rentals, you can do it with any kind of investing that you do. But as long as you have that track record, then you go to banks and they're going to look at, okay, how does your portfolio look? You know, what's your experience here? So now you build this reputation with private money lenders, hard money lenders, with all these people. Now you can go to the banks and be like, hey, why don't you finance me this? And sometimes what happens with those banks is that compared to hard money, they're going to require more paperwork, a better track record, more assets most of the time. But once you're there, borrowing money gets cheaper. And that's something that you have to build towards.
In fact, we do. In fact, that's what credit is, right? And it comes from the word credibility. It's the fact that, you know, in the old times, people. We were just talking about this. In the old times, you know, if you go to the store and say, "Hey, I need to buy this, but I don't have the money today. Can you just like borrow it? Like, can I just borrow it and then pay you back later?" Right? Then you have no knowledge whether I did the same thing just 5 minutes ago with the store right next door.
Exactly.
And they don't know that I just did what I just did with you and borrowing stuff from you. So in the old times, they were like all confused. They were like, okay, well, now it's time for you to pay me, but you're not paying me because you owe all these other stores, all these other guys.
Yeah.
We got to come up with a system. So that's where bureaus started creating. It's just data, right? Okay, so Marcos borrowed this from this store, and now he went and borrowed this from this store. That means that when he goes to the third one, he shouldn't borrow from the third one because he already owes these two. So that's where the credit came from. That's the whole credit thing. And when people get mad, like, oh, I don't have a good credit, I don't have good, I don't have good credibility with the borrowers. And that's the very first thing that you have to fix when you're a real estate investor and a business owner.
Yeah, the most important thing is your credit. Yeah. That's the most important tool that you have at your disposal. If you have good credit, and you don't even need to have like 800, over 800 perfect credit score. You don't need that. If you have it in the 700s, like of course it's gonna vary depending on if you're in the upper 700s or lower, but I never got to 800. I wish one day I can. I have to work on that very carefully. But sometimes, we do things as investors too that make it so we can't get there.
Yeah.
Sometimes you over leverage a little bit just because you have a project that needs to get done or whatever the case is, right? But you can, as long as you have a good credit score, that's going to allow you to borrow money cheaper. That's going to allow you to start borrowing money in the first place. Because even hard money lenders, even though they borrow against the asset you're buying, they also take not a closer look like if you're getting a mortgage to buy your own house. Like conventional loans, you have to have good credit, you have to have a bunch of requirements if you want to buy the house that you're going to live in. But if you go to a hard money lender, they look mainly at the investment you're going to make and if they're going to get paid back.
Yeah. They check out your credit just to see that you're not underwater for you're not in bankruptcy and stuff like that. You're not in that weird stuff,
Yeah. Yeah.
The biggest thing about credit scores, it is just data. It is a system created by this organization who wanted to measure how credible you are. As real estate investors, like you say, we strive to have a good credit score, but we will never be there. We will never be excellent. And you don't want to be excellent, because if you have an excellent credit score, that means you haven't borrowed money, you haven't done projects, you haven't bought real estate, you don't have loans, you don't have credit cards, you're not using them, and when the time comes for me to give you a loan, how do I know you're gonna be able to use it? How do you how do I know you're gonna be able to handle it well? In fact, lenders can not give you a loan just because you have an excellent credit score. If you have excellent credit score, they deny you because how am I gonna give you a loan if you haven't shown that you can handle it? So people strive to have an excellent credit score, but in reality, an excellent credit score for a real estate investor is never gonna happen.
Yeah, that helps with conventional. Conventional type lending. Traditional
buyings, for homeowners.
Homeowners, what we call in the investing community, we call retail. It's retail real estate because it's not something that's making you money. It's like Robert Kiyosaki said, we always say something about Robert Kiyosaki, but I mean, that's basically the Bible. That's what you start with, right? Everyone that I talked to, that I just met, it's like, because I read Robert Kiyosaki, and then that got me into, reading more. And it's like, it's the first thing you read, right? One of the things that he says is that conventional creditors, banks, and all these big lending companies, they see assets in a different way. An asset, realistically talking, is something that's producing money to you. The house that you're living in is not an asset but a liability. It's a liability because it's not producing money. Actually, it's costing you money. Yes, you have to live somewhere, and if you're gonna own or rent, I highly recommend for you to own, because then you can leverage equity that you have in your house. You can do things like what you're doing. I have done that in the past too, which is house hacking, having tenants either per room or in a different unit in your house if you have a duplex, or if you have the possibility to have, for example, Minneapolis right now has a program that I can never remember the exact name, which is I think it's like the 2040, 2030, something like that. In Minneapolis, in the city of Minneapolis, any single family zone property, so you have your single family home, you can convert it into a triplex if you want. You have to go through not the zoning per se, but through the city to make sure that you're doing everything in compliance, especially if you're going to have tenants, because right now Minneapolis and St. Paul are a little bit tough on landlords. St. Paul is very tough. Minneapolis is trying to get there, but luckily they haven't gotten all the way there. But they're flexibilizing that because you need housing. So you have your single family home, and you have a second floor that can be separated, and you have a basement that can be separated too. Now you have a triplex. You want to live in the base. Like I always say, if I was single without wife and kids, I would live in an attic. I don't care, you know. And I would house hack the rest of the house and cash flow as much as I can. But now you can do that kind of stuff. And the city of Minneapolis is allowing that. There are other cities that allow it while you're living there in the metro area. For example, I think Crystal and now Golden Valley and New Hope, I think they're adding to that. You can do what's called an ADU, which an ADU is an additional dwelling unit, which allows you to separate into another unit without going to the multifamily zoning like duplexes or triplex, fourplex, and all that stuff. Not I'm talking multifamily, 4 units or less.
So it's not zoning as a duplex, or it's not zoning as a like 2 plots, but it's more like it's just a additional dwelling where you can just rent.
Exactly, and
That's
you
good.
can rent it. And for example, the city of Crystal is the one that has it more very clear guidelines for it. And I worked there quite a bit.
When did it start?
Oh, I don't know. I found out about that when I started investing. So I don't know.
Okay.
At least a few years for sure.
Because I know California started doing that. Like people started converting their garages to like houses.
Yeah.
Because
and
it
you can
became
do it.
so expensive.
Yeah, and you can do Airbnb there.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you can do pretty much anything you want. I know
that
city
happens in markets where the market is so saturated, where like there's no housing.
Yes.
So the government has to do something, and then it allows these type of things because it just creates more housing. And because I mean, we're gonna have people living in the garage now, you know, because housing is in high demand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It is something that, I mean, when the government does the smart thing, they allow you to do creative things like that with your house. I mean, you can start investing anytime. You can start saving money anytime. I remember when I first got here, I met another Daniel, but he's from Costa Rica, and he was doing the same thing. He was single when he bought his first house. He bought it super cheap, renovated it, and he was paying like $600 a month in mortgage. Like, imagine that.
Oh, that's amazing.
Right? And he rented. He had like, I don't know, 5 bedrooms total. So he had 4 roommates. So he rented to roommates, $500 a pop. He was making money,
bro.
Yeah,
$500 a pop.
Well, yeah, and then at one time I think it was like $600-700 too, because you know he was really close to downtown.
With a $600 mortgage, you know.
With a
like
$600 mortgage, like just he was
Unheard of.
cash flowing. He was saving money. He was building equity in the house because when he bought it, it was super cheap. Over time, there's usually between 3 to 5% appreciation in your own house, no matter what. The last couple years, it has been more like 10% year-over-year appreciation.
more like 30%.
Well, yeah, total. You know, with all this madness, we had people offering $100,000 with no contingencies over asking price. It has been crazy all over.
I love it.
Yeah.
I loved it.
As a flipper, oof.
It was amazing, man.
It was amazing. Like you calculate for.
Tell me about this flip that you did in South Minneapolis. How much you made on that one? It was in the seller's market.
Yeah, it was during the seller's market, so you can't repeat this. We ended up making $130,000 on that.
Beautiful.
Now, you make that, you have to account for taxes. Don't forget about taxes. That's an important stuff.
No,
So
we don't pay taxes. We don't pay taxes.
I'm trying to.
Try not to pay taxes.
Yeah, but you have to at
You
some
have
point.
to pay taxes.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not something that I'm happy about. Like every time I think about taxes or the IRS, I seriously want a baseball bat and break something because it's as investors you work a lot, and flipping is a really active and involved type of investment that you're doing in real estate. You have to be there. You have to make sure that everyone is doing their job at the time that they're saying that they were going to do it, so you don't fall behind. Because every day, depending on what your lending is and all that stuff, it could mean like per day you could be spending $100 or $200 just to keep that property. So if you are delayed a month, so 100 times 30, that's $3,000.
Yeah.
That's $3,000 that you got a delay on, and $3,000 less on your pocket. So you have to be really careful and be there.
So what kind of strategies are you doing to decrease your tax liability?
So going back to the flip, we made $130,000. We have a beautiful problem, which is deducting all the money that we made a profit on that. The best strategy to deduct those taxes is to have rentals, and there are several different reasons for that. Having a rental gives you a tax break already because you're providing housing. Government loves for investors to provide housing. Every time the government has tried to provide housing, it went horrible for them. They don't know how to manage that. The private sector is better at handling that. Now, what happens too is that, you think about investors and you don't think about people like us. We're investors. We provide housing to people. I have rentals. You have rental, and we're people. We're young. We're family. We're family-oriented people.
Yeah.
We have investments, but we're not that rich guy that has a yacht and a private airplane.
We're not that
anything
big
like that.
corporation up there with thousands of rentals. Eventually, but
yeah.
as of now,
Yeah,
we're
maybe
doing
one
great.
day. I mean, we can get to
Not
300
maybe
doors.
we will.
We
We
will
will have
Yeah,
one.
exactly.
We will have 1,000 doors.
But when you think about investors, you think about those big corporations, and that's a wrong concept. It's people like us that are investing. Like some people grow to 300, 400, 1,000 doors, or commercial buildings type thing. Some people stay with maybe 10 properties, 15 properties,
Yeah.
and that's all they do, and it's hard work. You get tax breaks, and that's how you can afford to do a flip and hopefully keep most of the money that you made in that flip. And that's something that many people don't know. You can pay up to 60% of the profits of on a flip, depending on the tax bracket that you fall into.
Wow, 60%, bro.
I want to clarify here, we're not tax attorneys, we're not accountants,
CPAs.
we're not CPAs. This is, before you follow any advice that we're saying here, consult with your accountant and ask them about all that stuff. I'm licensed in real estate, and that's what I can talk about.
Yeah.
We know about investing. Everything that we say here, always consult with your team.
I don't even have a driver's license, so I just gotta give you that. I just know real estate very well. I know real estate as from our experience, right? That's what we would say. Yeah.
So that's one of the strategies. So you make a lot of money, but you have to know how you're gonna save in taxes. Because let's go with the simple math. You were lucky, you made a few flips, you made $100,000 that year. Well, the IRS is gonna want maybe 60% of that. Let's say that they're gonna want 60% of that, right? So you actually, instead of making 100,000, you made 40. So, and that's a big difference.
That's a big difference.
Seriously, give me a baseball bat right now. Right? I mean, come on, right?
So we do things to just minimize the tax liability.
Exactly.
Like providing housing, which is what the government wants anyways.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why, as investors, it's not that we don't pay taxes. We do pay taxes. It's just that we are taking a risk in getting tenants, because if the tenants don't pay their rent and you don't have enough cash reserves, who's going to pay the mortgage? Because not every investor out there, actually most investors out there, are buying with loans. So you have to pay the loan monthly, depending on the structure that you build with either private money, commercial lending, or conventional, whatever the case is. Sometimes, you have to pay, if it's conventional, usually you pay principal, interest, tax, and insurance. If it's commercial, taxes and insurance, you pay a part, from your own pocket, and then you just have to pay principal and interest. There are products out there where they give you sometimes 12 months, sometimes a few years to pay interest only. So you never build equity really, unless you renovate.
What is one of the craziest stories that you have on this flip? Like what was the biggest challenge, the biggest best story?
Oof, I would have to think about that a little bit. I think that we were really lucky that it went very well. This was a house that was built in 2003, poured concrete foundation. We went over there with our contractor and we made sure that, okay, can you do this? What do you think about the structure? Are we gonna have to do much work? Because there's the work that you see, the cosmetic work, and there's the work that you need to do that involves structure or mechanicals and all that stuff. And everyone thought the house was great. One of the challenges, going to that questions that we had, was decisions that we made at the beginning that we had to change on the spot for timing, and especially because we were in a moment that we needed to put it on the market as soon as possible because we knew that the market was going to change soon. So we had our plan. You saw what we like to do with Kirsten is, print out big plans and put them in the walls and in the flips, spec sheets with our phone number in there, because if anyone has a question about how to do something, they need to be able to reach out, especially Kirsten, who's the interior designer. Mm-hmm. In a flip, especially if you're doing high-end flips like this one was, you need to be really careful with all those details. Because this house was going to be between 27 and 103,000 square feet total, because we were going to add the whole square footage in the basement, and the basement had 8-foot ceilings. So it was perfect. It was like a 2-story house, but
beautiful, man. I saw that.
Yeah. So we had all these plans.
It is the ideal flip. It is what we call the home run.
Oh yeah. We won the lottery with that one. Yeah. But we also had to make decisions that were more expensive throughout the process to make sure that we get the highest return.
What do you mean by that? What
I mean by that, for example, there wasn't a master bedroom, right? So when we bought the house, it was a Rambler 1-story home that was about 1,500 square feet, right? On the upper level, completely unfinished basement. The only thing that the basement had was an egress window and pipes.
And the furnace.
Yeah, exactly. Just utilities down there. So in the main level, I don't know why the builder did this, but the laundry was in the middle of the house. So you had bathrooms. So if you think about it, you entered through the front door, and it was open concept, which was great. You had the kitchen and dining room on the right, the living room on the left. Behind the living room, you have the hall that leads to, on the right side of the house, 2 bedrooms and a bathroom way in the back. And then on the other side, you have the bathroom that everyone's going to use, laundry, and another bedroom. Yeah. There wasn't an actual master bedroom, and we weren't going to put it in the basement because that wouldn't work really for high end. You want to have
the laundry room. Yeah,
the master bedroom.
Oh, the master.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're like, the master bedroom. If we're gonna do high end, you need a master bathroom, a private suite. In-suite bathroom. So because you have to take a look at all that stuff. So what we did that not most people would do, and that's why we wanted to get this project done ourselves too, because we had a vision about it. And sometimes flippers, they just get in there, make everything pretty, add equity, sell it. I don't care. But this was something that we needed because we were on a busy street.
Yeah.
So, and we didn't have a backyard. There was a front yard, but not a backyard. And I'm going to go back to that in a little bit. So the decision was made to change the bathroom in the back. That became the laundry room plus mudroom. And the laundry room that was in the middle, that became the bathroom and walk-in closet with his and hers and super huge.
Yeah.
So we created a master suite with a private bathroom with all high-end finishes. And now where the bathroom was, there's a mudroom plus laundry room. So that means that you come from the back, you enter the house, you have the kids that are full of mud because they were playing football. Yeah. Well, there you go. They take off their clothes, boom. there, and they go take a shower to the bathroom.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
That's kind of the
flow.
thinking.
The flow. You change the flow to have that bigger rate of return.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I wish that Kirsten was here to talk more about that, you know, because she could.
But
give
that
more.
it's expensive to do that because you have to move pipes. You have to,
Yes.
you know, change the layout,
Mm-hmm.
and that's expensive. But it made sense because it was a higher end house, and it
Mhm.
was gonna give you the rate of return like it did.
Exactly, and that was one of the decisions that we had to make. That was from the get-go.
Mhm.
The other
Okay.
plan that we had was, since there wasn't a backyard, we were going to fence in the front yard, which was big enough, you know, and we wanted to make it as private as possible. We had the challenge with the city, which in front yards in Minneapolis you can only put four. I can't remember right now if it was 3 or 4 feet fences. Even if it's a privacy fence or a chain link, you can't go above 3 or 4 feet. You always have to check with cities and what they require, because the moment that you put something that they're gonna make you take out, that's money that you spend for nothing.
Yeah,
it's
that's it.
wasted money. So check code, check with the city
Especially
all the time.
fences. Fences are not cheap.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh,
no.
right? So we had that idea to make the fence and make a front porch.
Yeah.
So not a deck, but actually add the what's it called, a roof, but have it open, right? So we were going to build a front porch to change the curb appeal, to have, you know, a nice front yard where, you know, if you have kids can play there without worrying about the busy street.
Yeah.
That was the plan. We had to change it because of two things. One was budget. We were already over budget. We calculated for $94,000. We ended up spending $125,000
Oh my
because
God,
of different decisions that we had to make. For example,
$30,000 over.
yeah, and by the time that it came, you know, that we had the temperature to be able to work on the yard, because that's another challenge here in Minnesota. Everybody that lives here knows that try to excavate or do anything to dirt while it's frozen.
Oh yeah. It's not gonna happen.
It's not gonna happen. Like, you have to wait sometimes until
Yeah,
May
yeah.
to do any work like that. So we were able to get the egress window in, and that gave us the okay. Let's start thinking about the fence. But that's the last thing, because, you know, we were working during the winter inside, had everything done inside, and then we were going to move to the outside. When we moved to the outside, we were already over budget, not at 125 at that moment, but we were already over budget because of decisions that we had to make. For example, the siding, we were going to paint it, it had to be replaced. A little surprise that the city of Minneapolis inspector gave me too is that when they came and checked the siding, the idea was for the contractor to just put all the outlets and lights back in, and the city inspector said no, that has to be by a license. That has to be done by a licensed electrician,
Yep.
which made 2 problems. One, money, because it was going to cost me $100. It ended up costing me $1,000 because they had to pull a permit, and you have a licensed person performing a job, so they're going to charge you for their work. I mean, that's what they do,
Yeah.
right? And then the other problem was scheduling, because now I have to schedule with the electrician. So he comes, take a look at what he needs to do, gives me a quote, and then starts working.
Yeah.
So
That's more time that you
That's
need
more
to
time.
wait.
Mhm.
Yeah. And time is valuable because you have this, you buy these houses at high interest rates with Harmony lenders, and
Mhm.
time, like literally a day can cost you like $200, you know.
yeah, a day can cost you $200 easily.
Yeah, yeah.
So
just by waiting.
yes, exactly. So you have to make decisions sometimes on the fly, and the decision was made. We had the plan for the front porch and the fence that we ended up not going with. We're like, okay, we had to replace the siding, pay the electrician, and then we already knew that we had to replace the stairs in the back because they were concrete stairs leading towards the detached garage, and they were separating from the house. We were going to replace them with other stairs and just leave it at that, but the idea came along of leaving the front as it was, changing, of course, we ended up changing, you know, the steps in the front and the railings and the curb appeal of it. Like wrapping on the front windows was too thick.
The wrapping, what is that?
Yeah, the wrapping on the windows.
What's
so
wrapping?
you see that
Like
sometimes
the trim type thing? Or?
yeah,
Oh,
it's,
okay.
it's what you see, you know, between the siding and the window. You have
Gotcha.
sometimes it's white.
Yeah,
Like most of the
yeah.
time it's white. Sometimes it's a cream color, depending on what the color scheme is. So we changed that and made it thinner because it was so huge that it didn't look good.
Okay.
You know, it didn't match
Yeah.
with the rest of the house.
Yeah.
So we changed
it
that.
probably made the house look smaller too.
Yeah, it made the house look smaller. The curb appeal was worse,
Yeah.
so we changed that, and it was.
Because your wife is a designer and she knows that stuff.
Exactly.
She probably came up with that stuff.
Oh yeah, she did. So we did that work in order to make sure that the curb appeal was there, and instead of changing the curb appeal with an expensive thing, which is out in the front porch, we went a little bit cheaper, changed the wrapping on the windows. Changed the the steps in the front door and the railing there. Of course, the front door had to be changed.
Yep.
You know,
Here's the before, here's the after. Kind of thing.
Yes. So we didn't put a fence because we didn't have time. We needed to go on the market. We didn't add a porch, but what we did was between the house and the garage. Since we're like, okay, we need to come up with something, and we need to replace the stairs in the back anyways, we built a deck. Because in flipping a house, there are three major things that usually here in Minnesota you pay attention to: kitchen, bathrooms, and decks. Those are kind of three important things. It's not the only thing that you have to think about, but it's something important. Here in Minnesota, we like to have a deck in our house. It's during the summer, what do? You enjoy the summer. You like to be outside. So we built that, and that had stairs going to the backyard, and we solved it that way. So instead of having a front yard, we still have the front yard, and we're like, okay, the curb appeal is enough. We're gonna take the risk. If we see that we get feedback when we're on the market, that it has no yard or whatever the case is, then we add the fence and spend the extra money on it to be able to sell it, you know. So,
but not
that's
until you got the feedback.
because
how long did it take to sell?
that was beautiful to have that seller's market.
Okay.
24 hours.
It sold in 24 hours.
Sold in 24 hours.
Nice.
And we were calculating when we bought it that we were going to sell it for $500,000 to $525,000.
Okay.
That was the best case scenario we had planned. The worst case scenario was $475.
Oh, okay.
Because what I was calculating,
But
there were
you were still making money at $475.
Yeah, we were still making
So
money.
How much did they sell for?
It ended up selling for $580,000
Oh my God,
within
bro.
24 hours.
That's nice, bro. That's nice.
That we won the lottery. But again,
They got it
it was a timing issue. If we would have spent the time to finish the project how we wanted to finish it, we probably would have gotten much less.
Yes,
You
because the
know?
market was shifting. Like, literally, you sold it and the market shifted.
Yes, exactly.
So-
It was a matter of a few weeks.
Yeah.
I would say the moment that one hit the market until it shifted, it was a month.
Yeah.
So when we closed,
Yeah.
the moment we closed, it was a completely different market.
Mm-hmm.
And that caught, we already talked about this in other episodes, that caught a lot of investors off guard. Like suddenly we were like just rocking.
Yeah. And it seems like it's getting worse.
Yeah.
It does seem like it's getting worse. People are, there's investors right now sitting on properties and they're losing money. They can't sell them. And then there's homeowners who are very tied on their, and let's talk about that, because I think that's very interesting right now, because we wanted to talk about creative financing and how can we help homeowners who are going through a very stressful time. They're going through a very financial hardship. How can we help them buy their houses when nobody's offering them cash, nobody's offering them not even conventional buyings, and there's no buyers at all?
Well, and the challenge is the interest rate. It went from an average of 3-4% to an average now of like 7-8, depending on your credit score.
Yeah.
Going to creative financing, that makes it so the sellers are not going to get as many offers, and sometimes even if they do get offers, they're well under what they expected or what they need. That's a huge opportunity for people to buy a house with creative financing. Option number one, I think it's contract for deed. It's super simple, but for contract for deed, the seller has to own the property outright. So, and then they can act as the bank. Of course, maybe the interest rate is going to be a little bit higher, but it all depends on the seller's motivation.
Right,
and that's where you have your leverage. It's like, okay, I can give you, I don't know, let's say that they want 400,000, but everyone is offering them 350. And you approach them and you say, hey, I know you own your house outright, because that's public information. If you have access to that and know how to, and you have an agent too, you can access that information.
Yeah.
So you can have a conversation directly with the seller or through the agent, whatever that is, and say, I can offer you the 400,000 you want or need, because sometimes it's a matter of needing.
Yeah.
But you need to give me good terms. We can do, I don't know, let's say 4% interest rate. You know, always start with the lowest that you can think of. So if you go up, I mean, 4%. If somebody gives you 4% on a contract for deed right now, you did a great job. Take it. Yeah. 5%, take it. Even like I would say, take up to 6%.
I would say take 6.
Take it. Take 6, 7 too, because what happens is that maybe you have to come up with a 10% or 15% for down payment. So
sometimes not even down payments.
Sometimes not even down payment. It just depends on how motivated the seller is.
Yeah.
And the way that you tempt them is that you're going to get paid on the 400,000. You're going to get the on contract, on paper, you're going to get the money that you want. You just have to wait a little bit. If you can, right now, in a contract for deed basis, seller financing, many people, what they're doing is a balloon payment in 3 or 5 years. It just depends on the motivation of the seller. If the seller has 30 years to let you pay, that's going to be very weird and unique. But if they're like, yeah, I'll finance it to you for 30 years, fine, take advantage of that, because you have a great contract for deed. But most are asking for a balloon payment 3 to 5 years. What's a balloon payment? That means that you're making payments as if the seller was the mortgage company, month to month, and in the 3rd or 5th year, you have to pay the seller whatever is the balance of that loan that they gave you. So
you know what's my plan for retirement? My plan for retirement is to go and buy, right now I'm 25 years old, go buy as much real estate as I can, own it free and clear, and then sell it contract for deed. And that way I can just go to Mexico, and then I would, as an educated investor, I would just create my own terms where, like, there's a prepayment penalty, there is maybe I'll do 30 years, because that means I would retire young. That's a fact. I would just do it. And when I retire, I will have 30 years to go about and enjoy my life. Exactly. And if I can get monthly payments for doing nothing, for just hustling today and getting these houses on the contract and buying them, and in the future get a monthly payment secured every month, I would just do it, and then just get a check in the mail. Or,
exactly.
I mean, the bottom line is that everybody wants to live free. Everybody wants to live financially stable and with that freedom. And if real estate can provide you that at a young age, why not? Right?
Exactly. And on top of that, you acting as a bank. Let's say that you have 30 years. You give the people, I'll be the bank for 30 years for you until you pay it off. I don't mind. What happens is, let's say 10 years from now, these people go through financial hardship. They can't pay the loan. Whatever the case is, what you can do is be like, okay, I'll let you go, and you find another person that's going to pay you for another 30 years, or even sell the house yourself. And all the payments of course you have to build it into the contract that you're making there.
Yeah.
Because now you're acting as a bank. What happens when you can't pay the bank? They foreclose on you. So you can give them the option, I can foreclose on you, we can work out a deal where like maybe, you know, you don't pay for 6 months, but then you have to pay everything at once, which is called forbearance. Since you're the bank, you're gonna have more, you know, flexibility, and depending on how good they are, because if they paid,
I don't know about flexibility, man. I want my checks every month.
Exactly, and that's the other part. It's like, okay, I'm not getting my checks. What's gonna happen, you know, in that situation? How do I make sure that, because you can foreclose on people for that because it's in the contract, and you just kick them out. It may take you a while, but you still have your asset.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, as an educated investor, you're like, you set that up since the beginning. Like before you even start, you need to make sure you're educated on these terms. And
there are many different resources you can get all these ideas from, and always consult with people, you know, with an agent like me, with a mentor, attorneys, CPAs. You have to have your team built. And you have to, like we all do, we all have people that we consult with. Every time that I'm going to do an investment and I want to do it for tax reasons, I call my CPA. If I do it for leveraging debt, I consult with my lenders. You know, okay, what would be convenient? How are you going to look at this if I do this movement? Right? Gotcha. So you have to consult with people all the time, and having your team and people that you can consult is going to help you to make decisions faster. But there are other ways that you can do seller financing too. So I want to talk about subject to. Okay. You went through a deal where you helped with subject to, right? That's the option when they have a mortgage, right? And whatever the situation is, you have your own story, right? With that. But whatever the situation is, you can always convince the seller to sell you the house with the terms that you need. Sometimes you need to pay a higher price to get better terms that still make it a profitable deal. So how did you go about the subject to with that specific case you had?
With this case, it was very, very nice because in fact, I didn't really have to even convince the person, the seller, that he just was like, I think this is the best. I don't care what you do as long as I get rid of this house. So this house had an interesting story because it had squatters in it. The house was destroyed. I would say maybe just the asset itself would be worth $30,000, maybe $40, and that's just because of the land, right? The house was destroyed. Bones were good, but in reality, it's just you have to build a whole house, you know, basically. So we went in there, and the seller said that, you know, everything's good. You just, you know, let's sell it cash. And I was like, okay, yeah, I think we can give you 70. Let's go with 70. 70 seemed like a very great deal for me. We went in there, we looked at the place. This place looks like a, you know, good.
100,000.
It's $100,000 repairs minimum. So what we realized is like, okay, I think we can still make it happen cash. Like it was a seller's market. Remember, like we were like, we were like thinking this thing is gonna sell for that much. When we did our analysis afterwards, or research, we realized the seller owed $20,000 in assessments from the city. And what they do is the city charges you for snow removal, for cleanup, boarding up the squatters, security, the police. There were police calls. There were like 50 police calls throughout like a year. It starts
adding up, and suddenly you have a huge bill from the city just because you abandoned the house.
Yeah, they fine you and you have to pay it. Otherwise, you can't sell it until those are paid. There was also he wasn't paying the mortgage, so he owed like $9,000 due, like you know. So we were like, man, before we buy this thing, we need to take care of that. He's like, man, I don't got money. I'm broke. My family is broke. Please, just if you have to take the house, take it. I don't care. We were like, okay, man. I think what we can do is, and basically think about it. Like, who can help this guy? Nobody.
Yeah.
The bank was about to foreclose on him, take the house, and literally just
which was going to make him
lose.
even worse in his economical situation because now you have foreclosure under your belt.
Yeah.
So this guy needed
Yeah.
help.
Yeah.
And what I always like to express in all our episodes, that's what we can do as investors. We can help people get out of situations that are very harmful for them, like for their life, for their livelihood, and for their economical situation. If you have a foreclosure under your belt, there are many things that you're not going to do, including buying a house.
Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah, his credit was already bad, and with a foreclosure on top, it was gonna be even worse. So what we said is, okay, let's come in with this house. Let's buy it subject to, and it's basically abbreviation for subject to the existing mortgage, saying we own the house, but the mortgage is gonna be still on your name, and we're just gonna make the monthly payments. We're gonna bring it up to date, and we're just gonna make the payments. He was like, I don't care what you do, just take the house. I was like, okay.
At that point, he was like, as long as I don't have to deal with this house anymore, it's all yours.
So it's all good. He actually ended up paying to sell the house because of the title work and selling fees. So
well, but it was something that he had to pay almost $30,000 to even get caught up, and then he had to fix it to what?
5,000.
5,000?
Yeah. It was more like 4,000 something.
Yeah.
And instead of the like you said, instead of the whole liability. So he was happy. He walked away happy. He's like, it basically donated the house, but I'm happy, man. He was very grateful. So I ended up. So once you have the contract saying, okay, I'll buy your house subject to, you can sell that contract to another investor, and that's what I did. I sold that contract to another investor. The investor is now making the monthly payments, and he's taking care of the house. He's gonna fix it up and make it a rental. So it's a win for me, it's a win for the seller, and it's a win for the buyer.
Exactly, and those are the creative situations that we can get into, because the intention, of course, is always make money. Right? That's why we do this. This is our livelihood. We make money by helping people. It sounds super cliche and corny that I say this all the time, but this is what I do. I don't sell houses. I help people with their real estate needs. That's what I do as an agent. That's what I do as an investor. Because a real estate need, what is it? Housing. You need to rent. I can provide you with the rental. You are in a bad situation. I actually just was with a potential seller that I went to his house. I gave him a comparative market analysis, a CMA. It's a broker's price opinion. I can't do an actual appraisal because I don't have a license as an appraisal, but I can do a price opinion. And I told him, well, you have all these options. He's in a very tough spot right now because he did forbearance, and now they're denying him he has to either pay all this amount of money, or they're gonna foreclose on him. It's one of those situations that people, for whatever the reason is, get themselves into. And I went there and I told him, we have all these options. If I help you, you're not going to be in a bad spot. You may need to find another place to live, but what you're going to do is at least you're not going to go through foreclosure. That's my goal. If I can help you with talking to the bank and, having you...
And you're compensated because of that knowledge. You're helping them. You're getting compensated for that.
Exactly.
Real estate are big ticket items that you can just do transactions. Right? Real estate's a tool, money's a tool. But the biggest thing that we do is like, okay, somebody has a challenge with this high ticket tool, let's figure something out. And because of your knowledge, because of your expertise, and because you know the solution where others don't, that's when you match them, and then you're compensated for that, of course.
Yeah.
And if you wouldn't be doing this if you wouldn't be compensated, because then you're not gonna you're gonna live, bro.
It takes a lot of time to do what we do.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of learning new skills all the time, relearning things that now came to pass, because when the market shifts, you have to shift with the market, and you have to shift your knowledge with the market too. And it's very localized. So you become an expert, and what we do, it's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
Like we always say this. I quit my 9 to 5 to work 24/7. I get a call at 9 p.m. at night, and I take it.
Yeah.
Like sometimes
It could be a deal, man.
Yeah, it could be a
Could
deal.
be the home run.
Exactly.
Yeah.
My next flip that makes over 100,000.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you never know. I mean, doing a flip that makes over $100,000 or around that number, it's basically winning the lottery. That doesn't happen that often.
Yeah.
Like usually you have to shoot for like 50,000 or around that number.
Yeah.
It all depends on the area and various things.
Yeah. It will happen often now that the market's shifting. You're getting deals.
Yeah. Now where people are starting to understand, I can't sell my house for what I wanted.
Yeah.
It just depends. Sometimes, you have to do 5 flips to get to that number.
Yeah.
But,
Well, right now is the time to get those deals.
yeah, right now, sellers are motivated. You can get very creative with things like subject to, contract for deed, seller financing and some sort. You can mix financing. You can mix a commercial loan with seller financing, and that way, and maybe even private money too. And you did something, like we have investors in our community that put zero money to buy properties that are millions of dollars.
Yeah.
It is just depending on what you want to do. If you need help with any of that, you can contact me. You can contact Danielle. We can help you with all that stuff. We know how to do it. We are getting better at it,
By
all
the
the
minute.
time, by the minute. Yeah, and we can help anyone that's either in a hard situation or that wants to get into real estate and invest with this kind of creative financing stuff. And this is just the tip of what you can do.
Oh my God, yes.
But we would have to do not a podcast, but a class of 5 hours. Yeah. And even more than 5 hours to explain in depth how you can get creative in real estate.
I think that's how our community of investors came about. We do have classes on demand. I mean, we're not going to do a whole class on subject to and creative financing, but we do have people who do teach it.
Yeah.
So it's and the beautiful part of it is that we can introduce people to that. So we don't have to go around and teach every single individual, but we can just like plug them into the system, and there you go.
Yeah.
Learn how
and
to
then it's
become
on
a
you.
real estate investor.
And something we repeat every day, and kind of getting to the conclusion of this episode right now because we have things to do.
Yeah.
And we can talk all day.
We got money to make.
Yeah.
People to meet, places to go.
So what's really important is get the knowledge, and then build your team and take action. Always take action, because that's gonna be the best teacher ever. While you're going through a deal is when you learn the most. Maybe you have deals that didn't end up closing. You didn't end up buying those deals, but you learn a lot about the transaction. You're better prepared for the next time. So, or that helped you meet people, create your team. You got in touch with lenders, you got in touch with agents, you got in touch with lawyers, you got in touch with contractors, and now for the next deal, now they're just a phone call away. So if you are active, plus your knowledge, this is not hard. Investing is not hard. It's just taking action and having the knowledge. And we don't have a master's degree.
You get yourself known. You get yourself known, and people will guide you through the process. You will have the knowledge, the skills, and if people know you, that's where most of our deals have come from, referrals.
Yeah.
My deals have come more like, hey Daniel, I see you're an investor. You buy houses. I have this person who wants to sell their house, and then that's like, oh my God, they're literally just giving it away,
Yeah. No. Once you're prepared, everything kind of comes to you. It sounds spiritual, kind of like the law of attraction, but it is like that because you create that environment for yourself. It may take a couple of years. It doesn't happen overnight, but
I believe in that, bro.
Yeah, we're living that right now.
I believe in the law of attraction.
I believe in that too.
Those home run deals are raining upon us. They're like just like the water of the Mississippi, man, just pouring deals like that.
Yeah,
They are.
It is. They are, because we've been working on this to get to this point for years now.
Yeah.
So that's a thing. Work on it, and if you have questions, you can always reach out to us.
Yeah.
That being said, I think we got to the end of this podcast. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, man. Appreciate that.
And thank you for providing the place to record. This is a beautiful office, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. And see you next time.
Let's go. Now let's go make money, baby.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. We hope you enjoyed it and took some valuable information out of it. If you want to reach out to us with comments or questions, you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and our website, milagrohomesre.com.